Cleveland is my house.
Good news on the Cleveland Guardians front. One José Ramírez has re-signed, extended his deal through 2032. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. One of the most loyal members of the Cleveland Guardians, Cleveland Indians, however you want to say it, of all time, José Ramírez. He's sticking around. He's staying in the red and blue.
Yeah, he is indeed. And this is not just loyalty to the Guardians or the Indians. This is one of the most rare cases of loyalty in baseball. You rarely see this in the sport of baseball where a guy sticks through what is going to be his whole career because this contract extension or this addition to his last contract extension, I guess is the best way to put it, makes him a Cleveland Guardian till his age 40 year, which means he is going to retire our Guardian, barring us like trading him or something like that. But I just don't think that's going to happen because of how team friendly this contract is. He's basically making like roughly $15 million a year. And then there's 70 million of that dollars of that money that is getting deferred down the line where he'll be paid out after he retires from the MLB as well. It's kind of a different contract setup. Some of these players have been taking contracts like this, but it's a really team friendly deal yet again for Jose Ramirez to stay in Cleveland, a place that he has called his house. Yes, he said his house, and really has made his American home ever since he came over and started playing baseball for our organization.
Yeah, you say that it's rare in baseball. I just want to point out that Jose Ramirez could be making like $1 billion somewhere else. So
Yeah.
the fact that this is a guy that has been comfortable in Cleveland, he talks about his kids being raised here, they're born here. He loves the city. I just don't want to put too fine of a point on it because this is a guy that's turning away a lot of money to do that, to stay here. We're not talking chump change here. And he's been clear, hey, I have more than I could ever need. It's not about the money. It's about more than that. I'm home, basically. And to have that, first of all, is incredible. Like, hats off to Jose. He's such an upstanding guy. But there's another piece of this because if we don't surround him with talent, then my stance is, Hosey, you should have walked. You should have
Yeah.
took the money and chased a ring because if we don't put talent around him, if we don't try to win a championship with one of the key cornerstone pieces in the MLB, then what are we doing? And we haven't done it since 2016. So I say again, what are we doing?
No, and it's the same conversation I think we always diverge or divulge into once we start talking about the Guardians on this page because spend some damn money. And I know we have a new group eventually, hopefully coming in, and maybe the new group had a little bit to do with this too, because we're talking about $70 million that will be on their case if they do take over the team and won't be on the Dolans anymore. So that's part of it. I want to go back just 1 second and talk about how rare this is of Jose to be in this mindset. You know, the amount of times we hear athletes say it's not about the money, and to an extent, I do believe athletes when they say it's not about the money, but you're also not going to just take whatever is offered to you. And this is almost in the territory of Jose just taking a fair deal so he can stay somewhere where he's comfortable because his family likes it, because the fans love him, because he doesn't have to talk in the media like he would if he went to one of these big markets that would pay him $1 billion to play baseball there. He doesn't like talking to the media. He does his 2, 3 shows a summer, and then that's about it for the Jose Ramirez media tour. He likes to stay to himself. He likes to stay to his native tongue and his native language, and I think all of that is awesome and wholesome and good for him. And I'm glad we're the perfect fit for him because this, I cannot stress it enough, is such a rare situation. And to get back to what you were saying, yeah, they better spend some damn money because you don't get an MVP type candidate player year in and year out on your team for $15 million a year on your payroll. You need to go sign some players. You need to get a bat. You need to spend some money. I don't care about the logjam that might come up with some of these prospects because you signed someone. Let's go get some players, man.
Yeah, and to your point, you were referring earlier to David Blitzer.
Right.
He has the option to take over in 2028. I want to state that that is the option. That does not mean that he will be taking over full ownership. And it should be noted that he does have stakes in a lot of teams around the world. He buys them, he sells them, etc. But hopefully, That happens, and we have a billionaire owner that's willing to spend. By that point, though, Noah, we might have a salary cap in place. Who knows? But maybe we can actually get some players in here once that happens. Beforehand, though, I mean, do you really expect the Dolans to go out and splash cash?
No, not splash cash. I think where we're waiting for is for the trade market to materialize. So for those who are maybe a little bit more casual on their baseball front, the batting side of the MLB trade market hasn't really even ramped up yet because there's still names, there's still players kind of holding out because of the contract situations with the holdout that's, basically all but going to happen after this season. So the market's been a little weird in terms of free agency and the trades. I think we can go make a splash in the trades and maybe we re-sign a guy or restructure a contract, give some more money out that way. But no, I don't think that they're going to go for any of the free agent names. We've never done that in our tenure with the Dolans, and I don't think that that's going to change now that Jose Ramirez is here until 2032. And I say until, I mean until he retires.
Let's talk about that piece of it, though. What does this mean for the Jose Ramirez legacy as a baseball player on the whole?
Well, to me, he's going to go down as the greatest guardian slash Indian of all time. He's going to lead in every major statistical category in terms of that side of the ball. I'm not comparing pitchers to hitters right now, but with the amount of
Okay.
statistics that he'll put up, just being in here and playing at the level that he does, even if he starts to slide off as he gets closer to 40, because he is what, 32, 33 now, I think already. Um, he's going to be thought of as the greatest guardian of all time. He's the guy that stuck around and didn't leave and go ring chase, even if there's an argument to be had for other names, which I think there is. And we can have that argument once his career is all said and done. But in my opinion, it's his legacy will be cemented as a Hall of Famer with the Guardian C on his hat, with a statue outside of our stadium sooner rather than later at this point because of this contract signing and because of who he is and what he means to the city. I mean, this is the guy that gives back a lot too. He has his own baseball field for underprivileged youth here. I mean, Jose Ramirez, he doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion, for how awesome of a person, awesome of a player. He should be the face of Cleveland sports, and he's not because he plays for the Guardians and probably to a lesser extent the fact that he doesn't speak much
I was
English or
gonna
isn't
say,
in the
I think it's more
media.
that, but yeah.
But to me, we put the Browns on a pedestal, especially here on this show. We talk a lot of Browns because that's what the city is mostly about. But Jose Ramirez deserves all the credit and then some for being the perfect role model, the perfect face of the city of Cleveland.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you at all, frankly. He is 7th in all time for hits, by the way, as a Cleveland Guardian or Cleveland Indian. He'll probably move up to 6th this year. Actually, probably 5th, maybe
Yeah.
even 4th. There's a very real possibility that he's eclipsing that number one sometime soon, honestly. He's not far away.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the sports culture of Cleveland. There's three names right now that come to mind, and it should be Jose Ramirez above all, then Miles Garrett, then Donovan Mitchell. Like those are your three faces of the franchise. Gives back to the community, does good things. Love to see them. And Jose, I think, has been the best example we've ever had of that. Above LeBron James, in my opinion, above Bernie Kosar back in the '90s. And maybe I can't speak to that because I wasn't obviously alive for the Bernie Kosar era. But Jose Ramirez, what he does, what he gives back, what he represents for this city, I think is that's his legacy right there. And I think even if it doesn't end with a World Series championship or he ever gets an MVP, which I don't think he will ever get an MVP, hopefully he does get a ring at least. He will still be going down as one of, if not the best baseball players of this era and the best guardian, arguably of all time. What do
Yeah,
you think, though?
definitely. I agree. I think he's one of the best players, certainly for the Guardians. Like you said, when we start looking at stats, he doesn't lead a ton right now, but he's gonna lead home runs. He's gonna lead RBIs. Like he's close. He's second in a lot of these stats already. He's gonna be most games played by the end of next year. He is the Cleveland Guardian. Like you said, he's the face of the franchise. And it's a little disappointing that there were years that we got more excited about other players because he's been our cornerstone. You know what I mean? And I think you're
Yeah.
right. I think he's not on every billboard. He's not around town. I think the language barrier is a thing. in terms of marketability for him, but it shouldn't be because one, he's hilarious. We've seen it in the interviews that he has.
Yeah.
Um, like he's there's and two, speaking of using language as a barrier, we see the Dodgers stars that don't speak a lick of English either, and that hasn't been a barrier for them. So, frankly, we need to be holding him up more, exactly as you say, because he is one of 3 guys in the city, that really epitomizes what it means to be a Clevelander. He might not have been born here, but Cleveland is his city, and I love him for it.
Yeah, Jose is the type of guy you see him out at the bar. You buy him not only a beer, you buy him every beer in that
All the
bar.
beers.
And I was thinking about something too because I remember when we did that piece, it was a while ago. I think it might have been September when we were talking about that interview that he did with a Dominican radio show, talking about how he's going to hold Cleveland to a higher standard the next contract go around and how we thought that was fair and just of him. Um, and the reason I was thinking about it was because even when he's speaking in Spanish and you translate it, he's still really entertaining to listen to. So I implore all of you, if you want to listen to a little more Jose, just put on the subtitles and listen to him talk because he talks great about the sport, the city, what the game means. But are you surprised that it kind of went down as easy as it did, despite that whole interview? And you should go check that video out. I'll try to remember to pin it at the end of this one. He basically was saying like it's not going to be like that the next time around because I was promised pieces to be put around me and they just didn't do that at all really.
It's a good question, and one that I can't really answer because I just don't know his personality as a person, his
Right.
agent, etcetera, enough to answer that. Because for all we know, Jose's personality is and I mean this in a nice way, but he might be a pushover for all we know. That might have been the case. He wants to hold them accountable, and then GM and management just bulldozed him into this. We just don't know, right? That being said, like I hope that that's the case. Like, first of all, they owe it to him. Number
Yeah.
one, they owe it to fans, probably more
Yep.
than him, honestly. Number
Yep.
two, they owe it to themselves. Like we were so close in 2016. We do such a good job of developing talent. The Cleveland Guardians farm system is second to none, basically, right? They do such a good job of leveraging that talent. Well, now it's time to surround the players that we have. You got to use free agency and you've got to spend some money pitching, 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 but then adding some bats because we see what happens in October. The only flip side of that, and I want to give the devil's advocate, if you will, for just a second,
Right.
and you probably know where I'm going with this. These days, it's like, who cares? It doesn't matter what you do because you're not beating the Dodgers. Like, how are they supposed to compete with a team like that? And that's why, if there is a lockout at the end of this year, it's so, so very important. Never thought I'd be on the side of the owners, but I
Neither
think I
did I.
uh, but it's so very important because how can a Cleveland, let alone other teams, but how can a Cleveland compete with the LA Dodgers? And the answer is they just can't.
No, they can't, and that's the problem, and that's why we're gonna lead to a lockout, and that's why we're gonna have a salary cap, and more importantly, in our case, I hope a salary floor as well, where you have to spend X, Y, and Z on your roster instead of just being able to willy-nilly spend whatever the hell you want. I get what you're saying 100%, but then I also think about teams like the Blue Jays, and yes, they did go all in and, did the moves that they make at the trade deadline as MLB teams do when they think they're close, and they were up in game 7 of that World Series. So, yes, they're still beatable, but it makes it so much harder. The margin of error for a team like the Guardians is so small compared to the margin of error for a team like the Dodgers just because of the talent difference. So, yes, I get what you're saying there. I think the main thing they need to do, though, is just bring in some more batting help. I think that this pitching staff right now is at the level where we could go win a World Series with it. Now, the bats, on the other hand, especially with how poor our offensive output was last year, we need to add to. And I'm afraid that their thought process now is, well, we have Jose, we have Quan, even though he's a contact guy, but we have DeLauder and Kafis coming up for sure this year, and then obviously Bazana is probably going to play a healthy amount in the majors this year, and that's where we're going to get our offensive spark, and that's why we don't need to spend and deal with the logjam. And to that, I say go get yourself a utility guy that bets above 250 then so you can plug him and play him where you need to because you need some help on the offensive side for opening day and throughout the season. You can't rely on I know they're not rookies, but young players.
Let me ask you this, and I agree with exactly what you're saying, but going back to Jose for just a second, where do you think he ranks all time amongst all MLB greats?
Oh, that's tough. It's hard because he's not going to ever win an MVP just because of the market size and how that whole thing plays out because media members vote on it. Um,
Well,
I
can I
mean,
can
he's
I give you a stat real quick?
yeah. Go ahead.
So he was the first player in Indians or Guardians history to hit 250 home runs and steal 250 bases. The other players that have done that for one team, and I'm not going to name every single one, but a couple names on this list I want to name, right? Derek Jeter, Barry Bonds, Willie Mays. I mean,
Yeah,
that's pretty good company to be around.
I think he will forever be one of those underrated names that are up there on lists. I can't put a number to it because it's hard when you think about accolades and hardware that he probably is just never going to get here. And I think he's okay with that. I think he picked Cleveland because he likes being a little bit underneath the radar, as we've said throughout the episode. So putting a number, I mean, he's a top 100 player in history. I think you could say
History.
that. Well, history's hard. Baseball is so hard, man, because of how deep their history is. So I don't want to sound too casual when I put that's what makes it hard too.
I will say that Baseball Egg, which is a great resource if you're not familiar with it, go check it out. They have him as 13th of all time in third baseman. Um, and a 94% likelihood of making the Hall of Fame. I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer all day, but
100%. Yeah.
13th in third baseman. But there's guys on that list like Mike Schmidt's number one, Wade Boggs is two, like Adrian Beltre. Like there's people on this list, Chipper Jones, that you expect to be there. The one that I might disagree with though is Manny Machado being ahead of him. Not a fan of that. Um, I would think I'd put Jose higher, but just to give you an idea of what that top 13 currently looks like.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm curious to see what the Guardians do moving forward to, build around Jose, or if they're just going to try to double down on your young pieces like we always do. I really hope that they can bring in an option to help with the batting, a guy that you could easily slot into that number two hole role in between Quan and Ramirez to kind of eat up some pitches and make it harder on the top end of that rotation. But I don't know if that's going to happen. It's so hard to like I want to sit here and I want to give out names, and I did when I did my guest on Let's Talk About It, the Orioles podcast. But it's so hard to throw out names because you just don't believe that they're really going to do anything until they actually do it. You know what I mean?
Honestly, there were a lot of names that were out there. Guys like Kyle Schwarber, guys like Bo Bichette, guys like Alex Bregman and Kyle Tucker, and yet they're all signed now. Some of those with the Dodgers, unfortunately, but they're all signed. So are we missing our opportunity? Like we're not doing the building right now when we should be.
Well, I never thought big names like that were ever going to come to Cleveland. You got to find the cracks in the foundation. Some of the guys that maybe had a good year or two or had a down year that'll sign for less. That's always been the name of the game for the Guardians. It makes it hard. It makes this whole conversation hard because then you go back and you say, "Well, Jose's here and we love it as fans, but is that fair to Jose because he's never going to get a fair shake at?" Championships, MVPs, whatever that looks like, because of the fact that we're cheap. We're a cheap and we're a small market team, and we lean into that identity way too much.
But here, like, I don't want to go sign Travis Hafner, and I know I'm making a joke here because he's like 60, but that's the thing that the Guardians will do. Like, we're going to sign a big name that was a big name 15 years ago. That's not going to win us championships. If you're going to Moneyball, at least follow the thing and do Moneyball.
Right.
Right now, we're just I don't know what our strategy is, frankly.
Well, hopefully the Blitzer group takes over, and this is a good sign that that will happen in 2028, and we can move forward in a direction with our Cleveland Guardians. Where I always use the Brewers as an example, where they don't spend the most money, and they're a small market team by all means, but they do spend some money for Christ's sakes, just a little bit of money. Right
Here's
now, we're the second lowest team in payroll. I think the White Sox are behind us, but we're still sub $100 million, which is just absolutely a joke and astonishing.
Here's what the Guardians should do. And I know they won't, but hear me out for a second.
Here we go.
Lock in that sale price with the Blitzer group right now. So account for things like in the next couple years, inflation, etc. But lock in a price based on the team that we expect to be rolled out the next couple years because the Dolans don't spend money. So that what happens is the Blitzers can invest right now. Let them invest their money and go pay for players like big names. It's not going to inflate the club price for them because they've locked in that deal, but they can now go chase a ring and they're already at 25%. Then when they take over, they're already at a higher club percentage. Their investment's already paying off and they can just continue to grow. I know none of that will happen, but hear me out. Like, get me in a room at least. I don't know.
I would go in there and sales pitch that with you all day because I think that's a great idea, but it will never happen. Ever
Could you
happen.
imagine the two of us walking in to pitch the Blitzer and Dolan groups and just me and you rolling in, suits on, briefcase in hand?
I was thinking at the office polos personally, so we could push the branding a little bit, but the suits work too. Maybe we'll get like a nice what's the pin called where you put it right here?
A lapel?
A lapel pin. Yes, we'll get some at the office lapel pins.
Listen, make it happen. We definitely have friends that know the Dolan, so let's just get us in a room. Noah and Erik are going to save Cleveland Guardians baseball.
Well, time will tell. The pitch is coming soon. No, I'm just kidding. Really happy though that Jose Ramirez is going to spend his career with the Guardians. It's very unheard of in any sports. It's extremely unheard of in baseball for a player to spend literally 18 through 40 with you. So I'm really, really excited about this signing, despite the fact that it doesn't really move the needle on the Dolans being cheap or whatnot. It's still a feel good moment to have a guy choose your city, a city that you love, a city that you're a fan of time in, time and time again. And I can't wait to watch Jose Ramirez, bro, home run pitch for the next 7, 8, 9 years, however long until he actually retires and hangs it up.
Yeah, that is something to look forward to. Listen, if you've made it this far, show us some love. We're normally doing Browns content, and honestly, we're probably going to go right back to Browns content, but we cover all Cleveland sports. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and leave a comment. Tell us what you think. Who should the Guardians target, for example, in free agency? Or maybe just what do you want to see out of them this year? What is the ceiling? We're going to talk about that as we get closer to opening day. But for now, that's all the time we have. That said, the debate never ends, but the show does for now. We'll see you next time.